Mortal Kombat 1. It's out, there are a lot of characters, you guys want to know which ones to play. We've been over this 2 times before already, I would hope you know the deal by now. But if you don't and you're wildly confused by this very aggressive introduction, then make sure you check out my first 2 brutally explained videos on Mortal Kombat before watching this one. And if I'm really being honest, these intros are meant to just pad out the beginning of the video because YouTube won't let me swear in the first couple of seconds. I know that was a very quick introduction to this video, but for some reason, the intros are the hardest for me to write. So that's the intro. Up first is the fucking bane of my online existence. Raiden? More like break-in, because fighting against this guy online feels like having a SWAT team break through my front door, cuff my hands behind my back, and then force me to watch while my opponent pounds the ever-living ass out of my ass. I know it's probably a me problem, but Raiden is the one character in the entire game that if I run into him online, I just automatically consider it a loss. This dude's like a living electric bug swatter. He just slaps, zaps, and smacks you into submission. And he is so goddamn rude about it. Just because you act all noble and dignified doesn't make up for the fact that you just windmill smacked me in the back of the head harder than an abusive grandmother. In fact, most of this guy's moves make you feel like you're getting your ass handed to you by Gam Gam. I'll explain why in a minute. Raiden's first special is Electric Orb, which is a projectile that can very quickly become 6 projectiles if your opponent doesn't put a stop to that shit. I kinda love this move because not only is it incredibly satisfying to throw 6 projectiles at an opponent, but visually, it mimics the drums that the Chinese god Raiden is often depicted with. So that's a cool little nod to some Chinese lore, I really dig that. Raiden's next attack is the ol' Razzle Dazzle, which is a close range move that razzles the absolute shit out of your opponent's dazzle. This is another abusive grandmother kind of attack in which Raiden sorta just smacks his hands together and somehow your opponent gets hurt. I told you to clean this room! And if you enhance it, then Raiden will razzle your opponent so hard, they'll never even dream of dazzling again. Look, even Sub-Zero's just like, Jesus Christ, relax! His next move is the Shocker, in which Raiden picks you up like you're 4 years old and just starts fucking shaking ya. Electric Fly causes Raiden to fly across the screen and shove you with the force of a Black Friday shopper. Yo, got PS5s here? Electromagnetic Storm is Raiden's anti-air, anti-teleport, anti-you installing the game attack, which causes him to form a bubble of electricity around himself, sucking in the opponent and damaging them. The enhanced version of this move only affects the ground, but can be thrown at your opponent and followed up with other attacks. And finally, Lightning Port causes Raiden to teleport, ensuring that no matter where you are in the house, he's always on your ass like the obnoxious grandma that he is. Is this damn room still not clean? Raiden is a menace in this game, and much like Katana, this is the first time I've actually enjoyed playing him. The great thing about NetherRealm games, more so than any other fighting game franchise, is that they're always drastically changing the way their characters feel from game to game. And yeah, every fighting game franchise does this. Sort of, except for Tekken. But I sort of just feel it more with Mortal Kombat games. It's hard to explain. But it means that characters like Raiden and Katana, who I've always hated playing, get a chance to be my favorites in later iterations. Liu Kang? More like god dang. Look, I know he's the god of fire, but they really need to make this dude this hot? Everybody's always going on about Reptile being hot, or Rain being hot. What about the man who's literally exploding out of his goddamn shirt right now? This shit's not even buttoned up and he's still making it look like it's made out of tissue paper. This dude was given the power to reshape all of reality, and he gave himself the biggest glow up. This guy looks ready to give you a shoulder massage with one hand while he gives you a tattoo with the other. Why is Reptile the one everybody's obsessed with? Reptile looks like he belongs in a Green Day cover band. Liu Kang looks like a great listener. And yeah, maybe his arms are constantly on fire. But you know what? I think that's kinda sexy. You're gonna tell me if you walk into a bar and one dude's got a face tattoo and the other guy's got 2 flaming arms, you're gonna choose Mr. Face Tattoo? Liu Kang's first ability is Cosmic Flame, which he goes full Gurren Lagann on his opponent, throws an entire galaxy at them. do this move in the air, and Liu Kang goes from Gurren Lagann to Beat Saber as he throws a ton of fireballs. Low Dragon is a low projectile in which Liu Kang underhand tosses a flaming dragon spirit at you with the ease and effortlessness of tossing a wiffle ball to his nephew. Thanks, Liu Kang, really feeling respected right now. Dragon's Tail is not a delightful PBS children's cartoon, but instead a full-screen projectile. Only unlike Cosmic Flame, this one causes Liu Kang to come flying towards the opponent on contact. Honestly, it's pretty much just his flying kick from previous games, but with an extra step. Dancing Dragon is an incredibly accurately named attack, in which Liu Kang delivers a never-ending series of kicks to your opponent's chest and face. It's just doing a full-on samba all over Sub-Zero's face right now. I don't know if it's the sound design or the animation itself, but something about this move feels so good. It just feels so weighty and impactful. It sounds like Liu Kang's breaking every bone in his opponent's torso with this attack. And finally, Dragon's Breath is a close-range attack, which causes Liu Kang to burrow underground like a little mole and then pop up and damage his opponent. The enhanced version of this move has invincibility. Liu Kang feels similar to how he's always felt, only now with godlike abilities. Although considering he was always able to at least shoot fire, the godlike abilities don't really change much, but his attacks are still just as punchy, brutal, and relentless as they have been for years. So if you liked Liu Kang before, you'll probably love him here. He doesn't have any counters, which is kind of a bummer. You know, I just kind of like when he has counters, but otherwise, I'm a pretty happy Liu Kang player here. Fun fact about Johnny Cage, if you linger on him for too long in the character selection menu, he gets progressively more and more tired of smiling, and things get, like, real uncomfortable. I didn't know that until I made this video, and boy oh boy does this animation make me anxious. I feel like I'm torturing a man. You don't have to smile so hard, Johnny, it's okay. Everybody loves Johnny Cage in this game, which is ironic considering he's probably the last character someone new to this series would ever choose. Think about it like this. If you're a new player, who are you gonna pick first? The full rainbow of different ninjas, or the man who looks like he sells car insurance in Beverly Hills? But regardless, Johnny's a huge fan favorite. People will tell you it's because of his personality, or because NetherRealm deepened his gameplay mechanics, or even because of his new tight little ass. We all know the reason everybody's simping for Johnny. It's because nothing feels better than whipping out a Fortnite dance on your opponent before smacking the shit out of them. This move is Johnny Cage at his Johnny Cagiest, which is ironic considering they took away his iconic green glow. At first I kinda hated this change. I mean, don't get me wrong, I didn't like the green glowing energy nonsense either. But the replacement just seemed kinda weird to me visually. Like, what is this effect? It looks like Johnny's made out of nanobots or something. But the more I saw it, the more it grew on me. Besides, anything's better than what he had before. NetherRealm loves just slapping a gross colored energy onto a character for no reason, and I always hate it. Welcome to Mortal Kombat 1. We've got a whole host of creative characters. We got Sub-Zero, whose power is ice, Scorpion, whose power is fire, and Reiko, whose power is red. I wasn't kidding before when I said NetherRealm deepened Johnny's mechanics though. In this game, Johnny has a hype meter, which slowly gets filled by landing special moves on your opponent. Once filled, he can do the move Wowing Out, which allows his special moves to cancel into other specials, cameo summons, or fatal blows up to 2 times. Which for most people means opening up a world of gameplay possibilities. But for me, means going absolutely wild on my opponent's tacticals. Speaking of which, Johnny's first move is Buster, which causes Johnny to do a split, and then uppercut his opponent's balls with so much force, you'd think they'd murdered his parents. The enhanced version of this move keeps the opponent standing, which I would argue means that it hurts less than the unenhanced version. Oh god, why? Oh, that wasn't so bad. His next attack is Show Off, which is a parry that causes Johnny to phase through his opponent, countering any high or mid attacks. This move feels great to pull off, and was a main contributing factor towards me liking his nanobot effect. Now, This is the part of the video where I'd like to remind everybody that I'm not really an expert when it comes to fighting games, and that this is more meant to be a fun comedy series than an actual tutorial on how to play these characters. Which is why most of my B-roll footage has been from other, much more talented fighting game YouTubers who can pull off combos that I never could in a million years. So any of my opinions on how good characters are or aren't should be taken with a grain of salt. Now, with that being said, how the fuck am I supposed to use throwing shade? Does this move just suck? Because I think it just sucks. This move causes Johnny to take off his glasses and throw them at the opponent. And as far as I can tell, it might as well be a taunt. It does like no damage, it's got way too long of a startup to weave in between combos, it has no range. I'm so nervous to talk about this move because I feel like it's probably one of those moves that's like essential to performing Johnny's 90 hit combos or something, but I have no goddamn clue how to use it. His next move is Rising Star, which is a flying elbow, disappointingly not delivered to your opponent's sack. Shadow Dash causes Johnny to turn into a bunch of crisp autumn leaves and phase through his opponent. This move can also be extended for up to 1 extra dash. Shadow Kick is a near full screen kick that plants your foot so deep into the opponent's sternum, I'm pretty sure Johnny could wear Sub-Zero as a shoe by the end of this fight. And finally, Hype is a move that allows Johnny to quickly build up his hype meter. Johnny is super fun when he isn't wowing out, and an absolute maniac when he is. His wowing out state turns all of his supers into enhanced ones, which means Shadow Kick has permanent armor, Shadow Dash naturally goes through projectiles, etc. He's borderline unstoppable in this mode, which is great if you're playing him, and the most infuriating thing in the world if you aren't. But doesn't that just sound fitting? Life is great if you're Johnny, and shitty if you're not. The perfect Johnny Cage experience. Kung Lao? More like hung like a cow. This dude is coming into this game with so much big dick energy, I'm surprised he's able to crouch. Look at this smirking son of a bitch. You're trying to tell me this dude's not out to steal your girl? This is the only man in the roster brave enough to put Sub-Zero in a headlock and then noogie the primary motor functions out of him. All I'm saying is Johnny Cage must love fighting Kung Lao, because this dude's got balls. But I guess you'd have to have balls to make a buzzsaw your primary head accessory. Kung Lao's never really been my favorite Mortal Kombat character. He's always just been so bland, both in his personality and in his moveset. He's always just been like the guy with the hat to me. And it never feels like NetherRealm ever really wants to take any risks or chances with him. Even Liu Kang gets a bunch of variety from game to game. Sometimes he's counter heavy, sometimes he gets nunchucks. This game, he's a god of fire. Kung Lao just kinda stays the guy with the hat. But with Mortal Kombat 1 being a soft reboot of the franchise, allowing NetherRealm to reimagine most of their cast, the devs took this opportunity to completely overhaul Kung Lao and make him, kinda sassy. And that's it. To be fair, Kung Lao never really needed a massive overhaul. Like, I don't want them to get rid of his hat or anything. But if you found him uninteresting before, that's not gonna change here. He is fun though. The fun thing about Kung Lao is that he's always had the personality of a wise, respectful monk who wasn't afraid to be a little goofy from time to time, while also having some of the most gruesome attacks and fatalities in the entire franchise. You know, he's just a silly little quirked up goofball. That is, until you see him make his opponents beg for mercy during most of his fatalities, and that is most definitely still the case here. Kung Lao's first ability is Buzzsaw, which he throws his hat at his opponent and watches it as it just fucking saws into them. This attack hits high, while his other ranged attack, Hat Toss, hits mid but does slightly less damage. This move can also be curved upwards or downwards, though curving it downwards doesn't turn it into a low, and curving it upwards doesn't turn it into a high. Shaolin Shimmy, great name by the way, is a combo ender that causes Kung Lao to perform the whole ass cha-cha slide in your opponent's ribcage. Concussion is a super uncalled for mid-attack that I assume was taught to Kung Lao by his 8th grade bully. This move also works as a great combo ender, but the enhanced version will leave the opponent staggered briefly and vulnerable to follow-up attacks. Shaolin Spin turns Kung Lao into like a vibrator of mystical energy, giving him armor and then blasting the opponent when it's finished. Soaring Monk is a launching kick that can be amplified to transition into air combos. And finally, Dive Kick is a dive kick that dive kicks. Now you'll notice that Kung Lao is missing his teleport in this game, but honestly, I don't miss it all that much. Which is weird, because I love teleporting attacks, and usually I'd be super bummed out about them taking one from a character. But Kung Lao thankfully still feels fully well-rounded without it. Like I said, he's fun. This is a wholly unoffensive iteration of Kung Lao. If you thought he was conceptually boring before, you're still gonna think that. But give him a try, because you might find that his gameplay is a little bit more exciting than his personality. Up next is Ashra. Feels like she got lost on her way to God of War Ragnarok. She's a stance-changing character who switches between dark stance and light stance. And honestly, I'm astounded they gave that gimmick to this, like, honorable demoness instead of like an anime edgelord. All I'm saying is we've got like 4 characters with emo e-boy haircuts in this game. You guys gave the heaven and hell gimmick to this woman? Despite looking so poised and regal, Ashra's really a bit of a demolitionist. Her darkness attacks apply stacks of darkness to her opponent, which can be detonated by attacks infused with light. So a lot of Ashra's gameplay involves you stacking your opponent up like a powder keg and then igniting them for extra damage. One light attack detonates 1 stack of darkness, so unfortunately, you can't stack up a bunch of darkness stacks and then detonate them all at once. Her first move is Hell's Pillar, which is a low projectile that can only be performed in darkness stance. In light stance, this move becomes a mid-projectile called Heaven's Beacon. Astral Projection has Ashra send forth a spirit of herself which she'll then teleport to. The Astral Projection does go through projectiles, but the move will be cancelled if the projectile hits Ashra before she has a chance to teleport. She can also press down during this attack, which will cause her to deal slightly less damage, but end up on the opposite side of her opponent. If Ashra does this attack while in darkness stance, her Astral Projection won't attack after she teleports to it, unless she holds down during the move. Oh, that was a lot to explain. Holy shit, she has so many fucking moves. God's Wrath is a marching attack that causes Ashra to hit her opponent with a series of slashes. This move will apply 3 stacks of darkness to the opponent if performed in darkness stance, and it'll also detonate all 3 stacks if performed in light stance. And finally, Light Ascension is a launching attack that causes Ashra to slash the opponent into the air, opening them up for aerial combos if she enhances the move. The dark stance version of this attack does the exact same thing, only it also applies a stack of darkness. I'm not gonna lie, this section has been the most difficult one to write in this entire video series. Ever since I started putting out these Mortal Kombat Explained videos, I've been getting tons of comments of people being like, "Oh man, can't wait till he gets to Ashra." I don't know why, but a lot of people have been really excited to hear me talk about Ashra, but I have like nothing to say about her. She's fun to play. Applying stacks of darkness and detonating them with light attacks does feel like a fun little mini-game, but like commentary-wise, there's nothing here. Her design's just kinda nothing. Her animations are nothing, her personality is nothing. I just have nothing fun to say about her. Which is impressive, because I thought Kung Lao was gonna be my biggest creative roadblock. And I had a ton of fun with his section. I feel the same about Ashra as I do with Li Mei, Raiko, and Naitara. She's fun enough to play, but just so bland in every other regard. Which is really just one of my biggest issues with the game's roster in general. I don't know. Maybe if this game's voice acting had a little bit of star power or something, maybe that would spice things up. Like maybe if they cast somebody famous, like, up next is straight up Megan Fox. Unfortunately. Look, you guys don't need me to rag on Megan Fox's performance in this game. Dozens of other content creators have already done that. You don't need me to rag on her performance. But if you'd like me to, I mean, shucks, I can give it a shot.
Serena's right. Because of Quan Chi's magic, my realm's people are no longer poisoned by sunlight. We've finally escaped the shadows.
It just sounds like she's saying the lines to nobody, you know? Like, it sounds like she's saying the lines because she's learning how to read, not because she's speaking to another human being. It's like when you give a kid who doesn't know how to read a book and he has to sound the words out to understand them. And I think what's really interesting about this is that it really showcases how acting and voice acting require 2 totally different skill sets. Like, say what you want about Megan Fox, but her performances have never been like, well, like this. It also doesn't help that Naitara just, like, doesn't look good at all. She looks like a copyright-free, sexy demon you'd see on a Spirit Halloween poster. Like, her costume just looks so well, like a costume. Either that or a crazy goth girl you met at a Slipknot concert going around chugging Monster Energy drinks and chewing on razor blades. Speaking of razor blades, Nitara can perform a move called Blood Sacrifice, which damages her but enhances the properties of certain special moves. By the way, sidebar, everything Nitara does is absolutely disgusting. She's supposed to be this sexy vampire chick, but the whole time you're fighting her, you're just like, would you get the fuck away from me, you gross freak? Her first move is Bad Blood, which has Nitara vomit blood all over her opponent like the classy broad that she is. This attack also deals damage over time when under the effects of Blood Sacrifice. Her second attack is Quick Taste, in which Nitara treats her opponent like they're a drunken stranger at a Slipknot concert, grabbing them and sucking all the blood out of their neck. Which honestly, might have been low-key hot if you weren't already covered in Nitara's blood vomit. This move also heals you when Blood Sacrifice is active. Leap of Faith is a rising anti-air that's cancelable into other aerial specials. Bloody Bolt is a projectile attack that's only performable when Blood Sacrifice is active, and is also cancelable into other air specials. Dark Plunge is a dive kick that can be performed in the air and bounces the opponent when amplified. And finally, Nitara can also air dash in all 8 directions, which is actually really hype. According to tier lists that I've seen, Nitara's like one of the worst characters in the game, but from my small amount of time playing her, I don't know, I kinda love her. She's super fun, she feels great, slashing at her opponents, dashing around the screen. She feels like a more mobile Baraka, and I'd love to see her rise a few ranks on some people's tier lists with future patches. Maybe patch in some alternate skins with some different voices while you're at it. Just an idea. And finally, we've got Havoc, who's a living example of why you should never make out with Baraka. The story mode's not fooling anybody, Havoc. We all know how you really got those scars. Havoc's a walking brutality. On himself. Everybody loves him because he oozes blood with every attack. But I love him because he oozes confidence. It takes a lot of balls to step out onto a battlefield and kick your own ass more than you kick the opponent's. Especially with that haircut. Havoc looks like the singer from Panic at the Disco became a Spartan and then tried to have sex with a blender. His first move is Neoplasm. Havoc rips his chest open, sending out a projectile made of organs and magic to swirl around him before seeking out his opponent. If you enhance this move, the projectile will do a little whoops, where'd I go? Before sneaking up behind your opponent and blasting them in the dick. Helping Hand is a mid-attack with an extremely long startup, which causes Havoc to tear his own arm off and beat your opponent with it. Almost like he's trying to recreate a Quan Chi fatality, but only remembers like half of the details. This move knocks your opponent into the air, leaving them open for follow-up attacks, and the enhanced version does slightly less damage, but leaves your opponent stunned. Bloodbath is a great rushdown move that avoids mid-projectiles and closes a gap between Havoc and his opponent super quickly. The enhanced version of this move costs 2 bars of meter and connects a big goopy string between Havoc and his opponent, gross, which can be activated with Havoc's next move, Corpse Taunt. This move causes the goop to whisper something really mean into the opponent's ear. "I'll take bro, why you yappin'?" Naturally, causing your opponent to snap their own neck. This move leaves the opponent momentarily stunned, and is great because if you land Enhanced Bloodbath, it basically gives you a free unblockable stun to activate whenever you want within the next 5 or so seconds. Seeking Neoplasm is another projectile move that, despite its name, doesn't actually seek the opponent out. And finally, Twisted Torso is a series of marching high attacks that turns Havoc into a big licorice monster, punching and flailing and swinging his arms around like an absolute menace. It's no wonder why Havoc has become such a fan favorite so quickly after the game's launch. He's brutal, he's disgusting, he's aggressive. He represents everything great about Mortal Kombat. Honestly, he may even be a better mascot for this series than Scorpion. More than anything, he's just a fun concept. I really wish NetherRealm got this creative with some of their other legacy characters, like Li Mei or Raiko. Maybe they'll get a little more creative with the DLC characters. But for now, I'm just happy that I get to cause at least a little havoc. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you haven't yet, make sure you like and subscribe. It really helps out the page a ton. Also, make sure you check out my videos on Street Fighter 6, Guilty Gear, Diablo. I've got a decent amount of videos on the channel, and still growing. And as always, make sure you comment below what other video games you'd like to see me talk about in the future. And I will see you guys next time.